Today, we are going to look into how to create your LinkedIn newsletter. But just to be really, really clear, it doesn't replace your regular newsletter that you need to have in addition to your LinkedIn newsletter. But I really wanted to cover this piece about the LinkedIn newsletter because I think that is, when we look at the different types of content that you can create on LinkedIn, it is one of the least used. And at the same time, it's one of the most effective contents that you can actually use on LinkedIn. So that is why we're looking into this today. So if this is the first time that you actually come across me, my name is Josephine Wanner, and I'm a former corporate executive turned entrepreneur and business growth strategist. And I help my clients to build a highly engaged audience on LinkedIn. So when it comes to the newsletters, what we need to establish first is that you have at least 150 followers. Otherwise, you won't be able to create a newsletter. You also need to have, in most cases, you need to have the creator mode on. However, since I think it's a few months back, that is more like a standard setting. So if you can't find your newsletter, in just a minute or so, I will show you exactly where to find it. So make sure that you have creator mode on, and then you will be able to set it up. Also, what LinkedIn looks into is whether you have been posting content before. I know that some people actually only produce newsletters, very few of those actually, but make sure you add a couple of posts before you start creating your newsletter too. So if you're here with me today, exactly like Hasibul is, then make sure you come and say hi, because that is what these lives are for, that you and I can connect. You have the opportunity to ask any questions that you might have, and I have the opportunity to respond to those questions. So hi, Hasibul, I'm so happy that you're here with me today. So the reason why we're doing newsletters is there are actually several really great reasons, and I'm going to give you five actually. It is that it's more like an evergreen content. So when you create a newsletter, it has a very high ratio when someone Googles whatever the topic is that you want to write about. So it's actually SEO searchable. So when you write your newsletter, it's not just to put together a newsletter, put together a topic, but really think in terms of, is this really what my readers want to learn more about? And then you create your newsletter. Number two is it's really great to building trust. You know that in order for you to convert your audience, you need to build trust. It's the first, it's the know, like, and trust, right? If you haven't built the trust, it will be very hard for you to convert your audience. So having a newsletter is actually it's a little bit like a multiplicator to actually build that trust faster. Number three is it's compounding your growth. So I currently have 3,159 subscribers on my newsletters. I'm going to tell you a little bit later how that actually happens. And I have around 8,000 something connections. So a little bit more than a third of all of my followers are actually newsletter subscribers. So the more you grow your connections, the more your subscriber list on your newsletter will grow to without any effort at all. It is also a really great conversion opportunity if it be that you want to promote a call, someone to book a call with you, or that you want to promote maybe a masterclass, or if you want to promote a webinar, or maybe you just want to promote one of your offers. It is really easy to add links inside of a newsletter, and it's not hurt as much as a post is hurt when you add links to it. Excuse me. And the reason, number 5, the reason why it's so important to have a newsletter and actually to show up and be visible in general is that in today's market, we need 20 to 50 touch points for a cold audience before they actually really say that, yes, I really want to work with you. And having a newsletter where you can make a little bit more long form content, you can show a little bit more about who it is that you are, what it is that you do, who you serve, how you serve them. That will actually increase that trust and reduce the number of touch points that you need. So if we then look into creating a newsletter, because when you have your regular newsletter on your email list of any social media, you don't need a title, for that newsletter. However, on LinkedIn, you do need a title for your newsletter. So that can be a little bit of a hurdle, like what should I even name my newsletter? And there I want you to think in terms of make it action oriented, make it something that your audience would really like to know more about. Because when your newsletter is pushed out to them, what they will see is the subject line or is the headline of your newsletter. And then it will be like the first point of contact for them will be like, do I really want to learn more about this topic? Then and should I subscribe to it? So having an action-oriented headline or title for your newsletter is pretty important. However, it's not set in stone. You can always change it. My newsletter is called Outside of the Golden Cage. And that is something I created a few years back, actually, when I wrote more about how it is to be an entrepreneur, having been in corporate for almost 20 years. What is it on the outside? What do we need to think about? What are the experiences that we're making? And I still think that title works for me and it works for my audience, but it might be a little bit too broad if I'm really, really honest. So what about the topics then? What should you write about in your newsletter? I would say look into the questions you get. If you don't feel that you get any questions either from your clients or from your audience, look into other questions, like other people's questions. A great source for that is actually YouTube. What you can look into then, YouTube your topic, see what type of videos pop up at the top, and then see what type of comments and questions that the people have done there. And then I think that is probably the easiest way to kickstart this, to check out, ask for questions or see what other questions other people are using. I also quickly wanted to cover the difference between a post and a newsletter. And a post is usually a shorter form of content. It can be with a picture, it can be with a carousel, it can be with text only, different types of content like that, but it's more like short form text content. When we look into the newsletter, that is a longer form of content. So you can add actually way more flesh to the bone, if you want to put it like that, into that type of content. Whereas your short form content should be short, precise, to the point, easy to digest, and your newsletter can actually be a little bit longer. The major advantage of your newsletter compared to a post is that a post pops up on someone's feed and they see it. Your newsletter, however, that pops up in people's inbox. You don't get access to their emails, but they see your newsletter. It pops up into their inbox and then they can see it. I think this is a huge advantage, especially if your audience is if you have a lot of observers or lurkers in your audience. That can be if you're, for example, a relationship coach, or maybe you're a leadership coach, and other people don't really want to show that they consume your content. For those people, your newsletter is actually brilliant because they can consume it, they can read it, they can digest it. And then since you add real call to actions, links to your offers, links to book a call with you, links to a masterclass or whatever it might be, then that you have like a direct connection with your audience there. When we look at the frequency of a newsletter, and I actually got a comment the other day, someone who said she found it a little bit like sleazy that the newsletters are pushed out as soon as you connect with someone. Well, that is a feature that LinkedIn offers. We as newsletter owners can't steer that push out, right? So the first time that you set up your newsletter, and I'm going to show you soon exactly how it's done, but the first time you set it up, nothing happens. But the first time that you publish your very, very first newsletter, it is actually pushed out to everyone in your audience so that they can subscribe to your newsletter. Through that, you actually grow your newsletter subscribers in hundreds, even in thousands, depending on how large your audience is currently, and also depending on how interesting your topic is for your audience. So you can grow extremely fast with a LinkedIn newsletter. And the frequency of a newsletter is actually, from a statistics perspective, bi-weekly is from a statistics perspective better. Saturdays is apparently the best day to produce or to how do you say it, like publish your newsletter. But I would say don't think in terms of, oh, I can only do it bi-weekly, or I can only do it on Saturdays. Do it when you have time, but just start doing it, and then you continue. And you can always build in consistency later if you want to. I'm subscribing to several LinkedIn newsletters, and every time one of them pops up in my email, in my inbox, I'm like, oh yeah, that reminds me that I need to write my own newsletters. So set up your newsletter and just get started. So let me then quickly show you how this is done. Let me see if I can share my screen here in a good way. See how that is done. That's probably a little bit small. Let's see if that's better. Yeah, that's a little bit better. Okay, so this is my LinkedIn profile. And when I now switch over to my LinkedIn profile, I won't be able to see you. Oh, I see I have here from Irina, I have a question. Is setting up a newsletter like creating an email list, or is it different? It is a little bit different, Irina. The difference is that your email list is off social media. You can use you should use a different provider for that. I, for example, use Kit, which was previously called ConvertKit. And those email addresses, you own those email addresses. For the LinkedIn newsletter, it's the same. You call it newsletter and newsletter, but for the LinkedIn newsletter, you don't own the email addresses. So that is why it's so important to actually get people off social media and into your regular newsletter. But you can absolutely repurpose the content that you produce for your regular newsletter off social media for your LinkedIn newsletter. I hope that responded to the question. And then I'll stop there. And I have questions here from Hasibul. How will a newsletter help me generate leads, and how can I earn money directly from a LinkedIn newsletter? Is there any real way to do that? Yes, exactly like I mentioned before, that if you go back and check what I said before, you reach your audience immediately, and you can add links directly, so you can really convert the audience. But you need to build trust. Just because you have a newsletter and you send people links to, I don't know, book a call with you, or invest in one of your offers, that is not really going to convert them, right? So we need to build trust first. So here's how we set up the newsletter. So you can see here, this is my home profile. So here I would go to write article, and I already have one. As you can see, I already have the outside the golden cage is my newsletter, but we're not going to set that one up, but I can share a little bit later how a new newsletter is done. Then you go to manage, and you click on create newsletter. And when you do this the first time, nothing is going to happen. No one is going to see it. You can just set it up, and you can sit on it maybe for a day or two, but don't sit on it for too long, because then nothing will happen, right? Here you add your newsletter title, the really action-oriented title that I mentioned before, so that people feel really intrigued and really like, oh yes, I absolutely need this one. As I said, you can always change this title. It's not set in stone, but I wouldn't think in terms of, oh, I need to change this several times per week. Then you do here whether you want to publish it daily, weekly, bi-weekly, monthly. This doesn't really have a huge impact. It just says that when someone subscribes to your newsletter, it says that this is a bi-weekly newsletter, or this is a weekly newsletter. So if you think in terms of, oh, I want to publish it daily, then I would say daily. If you think, however, I will publish it bi-weekly, and then you publish it weekly, no one is going to come and get you for that. So pick one here. And then you add like a newsletter description, like a short, little bit like a subject line. Like, what is this? Like, what's in it for them? Why should they subscribe to your newsletter? Who is this for? for example, is this for coaches and service providers, or is this for yoga teachers, or is this for people in banking, or whomever is this for, and what can they expect from your newsletter? And then you can upload an image. And the image is, let me just quickly show you what that looks like. It's this little image that you see here, and you see that also in my featured section. It's a little bit like a thumbnail. You can mention it like, or we can call it like that. It's a thumbnail. So I go back here to create newsletter. And then as soon as you have created the first version of your newsletter, it will be pushed out to all your connections and your followers, and invite them to subscribe to your newsletter. You will also be subscribed to your own newsletter, which is a good thing, so that you can share the link everywhere that you want to be. And it will be featured on your profile, which is also a good thing, so that people can really find it. If we then say, okay, now I have published my new newsletter, like in my case, outside the golden cage, the picture that you add here, and we can maybe look at one of my former newsletters. If we look at this one, this is one of my former newsletters, how it was created. And here you then see that is the big thumbnail. And when I post this newsletter, this is what goes out. This is what is pushed out. Here's the title of this particular newsletter. And then we add, and the date is there, comes automatically. And here you see my own headline. So everything is kind of like branded, connected, and it's really easy to actually follow this. I think that was actually it, what I wanted to share there. So I will see if I can take away that one here. And then Irena asks if we can make the newsletter as a paid subscription. No, you can't. This is a LinkedIn. You can look at it like a content type of content for LinkedIn. If you want to make it a paid subscription, then I would suggest you use Substack, for example. I don't use Substack myself, but I know a lot of creators who use Substack and use it really successfully too. So that is one thing that you can do there. And we have Farouk here, who is here with us live today. So happy to have you here. Let me just quickly check my notes. Oh yeah, okay. So the thing about your newsletter is that every time someone sends you a connection request, even if you don't accept the connection request, they are asked whether they want to subscribe to your newsletter. They have the option, they have the choice to say yes or no. So you're not pushing this down the throat of anyone. Everyone, you're not like holding the gun to someone's head and say then you have to subscribe to my newsletter. It is an option, but I absolutely encourage you to create your newsletter. What I suggest you to do too, and I do that too seldom, actually I did it a little bit today, that you go through your newsletter list or newsletter subscriber list, because the cool thing about the newsletter subscriber list is that you will also see that you have third connections who subscribe to your newsletter. So the first connections, those are the ones that you are connected with, those that you can write DMs, direct messages to. Then you have the second connections, those who might only follow you, or you are connected with someone that they are connected with. Those are your second connections. But then you might also have third connections who actually subscribe to your newsletter. So what I would suggest that you do there, to go through your subscriber list and actually send them messages or connection requests if you aren't connected yet. One of my clients, Araceli, she did this when she published her first newsletter, or her newsletter, and made instantly got 2 new one-to-one clients. So that is how powerful it can be. If we go back to the question that Hasibul asked before, this is how you can really convert the people, that you connect with the people, you understand their needs and their wants, and then you connect them. And then Irina suggests that, so it's like a broadcast channel to filter the audience. Yes, absolutely. And I also think that many of your audience are, because you will get a broader audience. And if you look at the LinkedIn newsletter, will be a very broad audience compared to your newsletter off the social media platform, because there it will be really targeted to the people who are really, really interested in what you're doing, because they have come to your to your newsletter list or to your email list outside of social media, because they might have subscribed to one of your freebies, or they might have registered for one of your webinars, or however they came to your email list. So I would look at it, social media, like very broad in general, post like very broad. The LinkedIn newsletter is a little bit more narrow, and then we have your own newsletter list, which is really narrow and potentially doesn't grow as fast as your LinkedIn newsletter list does, because that really grows without effort every time you send a connection request, or every time someone sends you a connection request. So what I suggest you also do is you add links and you add call to actions in your newsletter. Because just sending a newsletter without any links or without any call to actions, well, that can be a kind of nurture. But here, since you're not hurt in any way from an impression perspective, when you add links to your newsletter, I think that it can be a really great opportunity for you to move your audience a little bit closer to you and to your sales. I've already mentioned it is really important to take your audience closer to you. That can be that you're promoting one of your freebies in your newsletter, or that you might be promoting a webinar, or that you're inviting them to book a call with you. Depending on your sales strategy, that is how you can move your audience closer to you. So if there are any more questions, and I really love the questions I've gotten so far. It's really exciting and fun for me that we are so active, and that makes this so much more fun for me too. By the way, what I wanted to tell you also, this has nothing to do with newsletters, but it's about these live sessions. And maybe I actually have a YouTube video on how to go live. If you look at going live, and you saw that maybe only 4 people registered for my live for this live session on LinkedIn, but I stream it to Facebook and I stream it to YouTube too. What has happened since last week, since I went live last week, is that 150 people have seen that live video or have come across that live video. So start building your newsletters, start building your live presence. If you want to have more strategy on how this can look like, I offer a free masterclass tomorrow. It's called the LinkedIn Clarity Masterclass, where I will go through my 5-step framework to help you grow and succeed on LinkedIn. So I will add the link to register for it if you haven't already, because we have over 400 people that have registered already. So I'm super excited about that. Anyways, we have a question here from Sandra, who says, will all my connections be requested to subscribe every time I send out a newsletter? No, not every time you send out a newsletter. Or is there a way for people to say they're generally not interested? No. So what happens is that when you publish it the very first time, it is then pushed out to everyone. That is the only time it's pushed out to everyone. And then maybe, let's say 50% of your followers say, yes, I want to subscribe, and 50% say, no, I'm not interested. So assuming you have 1,000 subscribers, 1,000 followers, then you will have instantly 500 subscribers who get to read that first newsletter. When you then create a second newsletter, it is then sent out to those 500 who said that they were interested. However, let me take away this. Every time you connect with someone new, then that person is asked, do you want to subscribe to Sandra's newsletter? And then they have the option to say yes or no. I think, not 100% sure, but I think that they can actually say in their settings, do you want to be invited to subscribe to newsletters? Same as for events, for example. Do you want to be invited to events? Those are the things, right? So they always have the option to say yes or no, but it's not pushed out to all of your followers, because they already got the option to say, kind of like opt in to say, yes, I'm interested, or no, I'm not interested. So that's how that kind of difference is. I hope that is clear. And I also think in terms of, and I think that we in general stand a little bit too much in our own ways for our sales, and we think in terms of, oh, I think it would be so embarrassing if my newsletter is sent out to everyone. Instead, think in terms of, if my newsletter is sent out to the right person at the right time, that might help and change their lives. That is how big that impact can be. But if you don't dare to send it out, or if you don't dare to even push a post on that post, that person might not see it when they need it the most. You only need to change the life of one person, and if you can do that, you have made a huge difference in the world. So I think that was actually it. So anyways, tomorrow, the LinkedIn Clarity Masterclass, super excited, and Hasibul will be there, and we have 400 registered who will be there. Not everyone will be there. I don't think everyone will be there, but loads and loads of people will be there, and I would love to see you there too. So thank you all so much for being here with me today, and hope to see you tomorrow in the LinkedIn Clarity Masterclass, and hope to see you next week during my live next week. I haven't really decided on the topic for next week's live, so if you have a great idea, then let me know in the comment section. Bye. Bye-bye.